All right. Hello, everybody out there all over the place. I am Alan Twigg. Welcome to this webinar, AI and the Business of Dentistry. So for those of you joining and coming in, again, this is a live webinar. We are not AI, despite how we might sound or talk. We are live, we are real, we are humans. So we've got a Q&A feature that is turned on, so please submit any questions, comments in the chat. And a couple quick little housekeeping items. So we will be sending out CE credits via Cirrus within 10 business days, and they will need to reach out and confirm information and attendance. Common question, will this webinar be recorded? The answer is yes. The recording will be available after a little bit. And again, feel free to submit questions in the chat, and we will get to them at the end and potentially as we go along. All right. So also, for those of you joining, please, in the chat, tell us where you're from. Tell us whether you've used AI in your practice or in your business thus far. And please also share with us anything that you might be wanting to get out of this hour. What kind of things are you curious about, passionate about, excited about? And again, for those joining us, we are live on a real webinar with real people talking about AI. All right. So let's talk just a little bit about what we're here to do. So today is all about AI and dentistry. There continue to be these huge monumental shifts, changes, challenges. AI is obviously always in the news. Many practices have already started using AI for various purposes in the practice. We all know that there are various risks. There are amazing solutions out there, both clinically and on the business side. And so we're just here to chat with some industry experts so that we can discover solutions, discover challenges, potential issues, and ultimately run our practices better. So here in a little bit, we will do some intros with everyone and then dive into it. So again, if you're still joining us, please drop in the chat where you're from, what you've used in your practice thus far from an AI standpoint, and what you're looking to get out of this hour. And we will get to as much of that as we possibly can. All righty. Get some folks in there. And yes, thank you, Eric. We have an intro poll going for you all. So please take a moment, fill this out. A couple little things in here about you and AI in your offices, what you're looking for, and all that good stuff. So please take a look at that intro poll, and we will get all that going here momentarily as well. Overall, I'll just say that, we've done a bunch of these webinars as a group, and our hope, our vision, our goal is that all of you come away with really good actionable insights, that you can expand your knowledge, in this case, particularly with HR, and also just a nice diversity of different expertise and topics and areas that will help you in your practices. We've got a really nice group of folks here on the webinar today, and we are so excited to talk to you guys about AI stuff. I almost said HR because I'm HR. I was like, not HR, AI. It's good. All righty. Well, shall we dive into the intros, gentlemen?
Sure.
All righty. So first up, I would like to introduce Mr. David Harris. David is the CEO of Prosperident, which is one of the world's largest dental exclusive forensic accounting company. Say that 10 times fast. David's previous experience as a thief gives him an unrivaled expertise in helping clients with embezzlement issues. He is a forensic CPA and private investigator. Then we have Mr. Eric Pook, the president of Cirrus Consulting Group, Dental Office Lease Negotiations. Cirrus is the preeminent tenant advisory and office lease negotiation firm for dentists. Cirrus has helped over 13,000 doctors over the past 30 years. They are, without a doubt, the absolute authority when it comes to lease negotiations. This classic thing of experience matters. Absolutely. Cirrus has saved dentists over $400 million by advising them on how to successfully leverage their lease agreement and also reduce risk. And then we have Mr. Martin Mendelson, the founder of Metamorphosis Coaching and a former member of the resident faculty of Spear Education. And Martin's goal is to help dental professionals get out of their own way through the science of mindset, communication, and productivity. And whether that's on stage 1R1 or with teams, he is wonderful and passionate about all of this fun stuff. His first book, One Move Makes All the Difference, was published in 2025. And it has 4 hours of CE available through his website. How many times can you read a book and get CE credit? It's wonderful. All right, and then I'll introduce myself as well. I am Alan Twigg, president of Ben Erickson and Associates. Ben Erickson and Associates makes HR approachable and straightforward. We have over 45 years in the people side of the practice, and it's all about just helping leaders navigate that ever-changing HR landscape and turn your team into a real competitive advantage. All right, that's us. And thank you all for your participation thus far in the poll and in the chat. Love to see where folks are from and how you guys have been using AI. So,
And fun
gentlemen.
fact, just as we go through, well,
Oh,
yes, we have multiple members of the International Academy. We only have one dentist on the panel. So Dr. Martin Mendelson as our resident dentist this evening as well.
Awesome.
yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All righty, gentlemen, let's dive into it. So, we're going to start with just some general questions for all of us, open-ended stuff about AI. So, first of all, we are in what some people are describing as a gold rush phase of AI. And especially in dental, it's a little bit the Wild West. There's a whole bunch going on. So, from your guys' perspective, whether it's the lease, whether it's the ledger, whether it's team culture, what is one AI trend that you think is overhyped? And what is one that you think is a game changer for people in 2026 and beyond? So, Eric, why don't we start with you? What would you say to that?
It's so interesting. Well, the facts are just from the group, just to share from some of the polls, and thank you for taking the time. We've had 41% are not using AI, 41% equally are using about 1 to 2 tools, consider themselves a beginner, and about 18% intermediate. So I think that's now 22% intermediate. So I think that tells part of the story is I would argue that I was at a group, a Patterson group that was in LA a couple weeks ago, and they described it to say that we are in the slowest rate of change that we will experience for the rest of our lives.
Mm.
Right. And it's pretty profound because, we've got this sort of ever increasing linear curve that's coming up ahead of us. And God knows how we're going to explain it to my kids or otherwise. But I think from a gold rush perspective, definitely there's lots of interest. But I think it's shockingly how little people are starting to use it other than people my age, mid 40s, et cetera, that are sort of using it as a replacement of Google. And very few are really sinking their teeth into it because it's not the same. There's still some issues. There's a trust issue, et cetera. So I think the biggest piece is just the concept of how few are really utilizing it to a fraction of its potential would be my answer to that one.
Wonderful. All righty. Dr. Martin, how about you? What would you
So,
say?
yeah, so good evening, everyone. So I heard you ask two questions. What area is overhyped and what area is underutilized? The overhyped one, I will say with a qualifier. And what I mean by that is I think the answering of the phone thing is overhyped if you don't need it. That's my qualifier. There are practices that need it. There are practices that don't. What I think is a game changer that's relative to this is, and I just saw one off just commented that they use it for transcribing phone calls. The ability to use AI to help understand what's going on when the patient calls, because let's face it, folks, case acceptance starts when the phone rings. And so I actually sat on phone recordings for years at Spear Education trying to train the customer success managers. If I had AI, it would have scaled me dramatically. And so the ability to understand what happened, what the patient sentiment was, what the result of the call was, did the call convert? Sally versus Johnny, who has better conversion for a training opportunity? That is just paramount to the success of the practice. I think I'll say equally, honestly, is things like Pearl in particular that are helping to read radiographic imagery, CT included, because now everybody knows the word AI. And 5 years ago when I first saw that technology, AI wasn't as ubiquitous, but now I haven't seen studies on this, but I'd be willing to bet you that if you say to a patient, well, this was also evaluated with AI, that's going to mean a lot to them. Again, that's a subjective statement. Please don't take that as literature. But I think we can all agree that's going to continue to be a game changer. But absolutely, the call quality, call conversion, understanding what's going on, that's huge. And by the way, also like some of the products like Mango have, et cetera, the ability if the phone isn't even answered to actually follow up by a text and what are you looking for? How can we help you? All that kind of stuff. Game changing, absolutely game changing. So.
Indeed. Yeah. And thank you, Martin, as always, for emphasizing the scientific aspect of whether something is there or not. I know
Yeah.
you are all about the data and the
Yeah.
science, and thank you. That's a fresh perspective always.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. David, how about you? What would you say about Gold Rush, something that's overhyped, something that's a game changer?
Well, I'll start by talking about the phone system, and we might be one of those companies that really benefits from having AI answer our phone. And we started that about 4 or 5 months ago. And with us, we've got 25 people. We've got folks who call us with a very diverse set of needs, and we also get phone calls basically 24 hours a day because we'll get phone calls from dentists at 3 a.m. Not that we can necessarily help them at 3 a.m., but we certainly like the idea of them talking to somebody who says, here's what you need. I'm going to set up an appointment with this person for you for tomorrow. When people call us, they're in some distress because we deal with embezzlement. And, the fact that they get attention is better than the alternative at 3 a.m. So we're one of those companies I think that really needs and can benefit from AI answering the phone. And at an absolute minimum in a dental practice, to me, AI phone answering should be the failover. So if the office is closed, if it rings 3 times and nobody from your team can pick up, then to me, AI is a lot better than the alternative. Whether it should be the primary phone answering technology or kind of the failover is a decision you've got to make. But I think it should be there. I think if we look down the road, and we're going to probably do a little bit more of that in a few minutes, but we think of AI as managing text and data and voices and things like that, and it can certainly do all those things. It eventually will be able to do a lot more, and I think there will be a time when super gingival scaling of teeth is done by a robot that is AI driven. And I know that's going to be a controversial topic, but AI can probably do a lot of clinical things eventually. Is that going to be next week or next year? Probably not. But the reading of radiographs is really the first step, and then being able to make a clinical assessment and do something about it. As far as overhype goes, I don't know. I think a lot of people are still kind of at the starting gate here, and as I think Eric said, they're using AI is a fancy form of Google. And I call it kind of almost recreational use, where you're using AI for that. We use it now, and I'll give you a really good example. We have an internal policy manual that's about 400 pages, and one of the sections in it was kind of dated. And what I did the other day was I fed that section into our AI engine and said, what should I change here? That was the only question I asked, and it came back with great suggestions. And we changed it from that. So that's kind of that slightly better than Google approach, but that's pretty elementary at this point. There's AI can do a lot more. It can drive taxis.
Mhm. Indeed. Well, and I'll just say too, from my HR perspective, I think from a hype standpoint, I think that ChatGPT and some of the LLMs out there, especially the free versions, they're just not accurate, and they're overly confident, and in some cases the data that they're using underlying them is just it's just not good data. In some cases it's just some random guy on Reddit, and that's their source. In terms of game changer, I'm really excited about the opportunities for AI to automate all of the boring HR busy work that nobody wants to do. And
Yep.
whether that's, chasing people down for missed time clock punches, or it's paperwork, or it's, you know, renewals each year or something. Just that the idea that we would free up that time, not that we would then fire all of our office managers, or there's no reason to have leaders, but that it frees up the busy work so that we can foster better connection. We can foster appreciation, employee engagement, the things that really move the needle with teams. That's what I get excited about. Now, I will put a caveat in there, which is that Harvard Business Review did have an article recently about how the hype of AI is that it will free up all of our time and we won't have to do any busy work. And what a lot of companies are finding that really go full on into AI is that it doesn't actually eliminate work, it just kind of intensifies it. It just you don't have to do this, but now you got to do all this other stuff. And so I still hold out hope that AI from an HR standpoint can reduce the busy work so that we can do more good stuff, but I hope that I hope that it'll work out. So, all right, let's talk a little bit more specifics about this in dental practices. So getting outside of our businesses and getting into a dental practice. Let's talk about where we see AI helping or potentially hindering dental practices specifically. And Martin, why don't we start with you on this one and tell us what you
Yeah.
see there?
Well, I think first of all, we also need to say, and I think you alluded to this earlier, but we have to be very, or maybe it was in our pre-huddle, we need to be very careful about privacy and HIPAA issues. Because if you're sitting there and you're putting financial data into AI, you're putting, oh, let's say you're a specialist, for example, and you want to analyze your referring office data. You have to be very careful of that. And I'm just a dentist, so I'm not a lawyer or an HR professional. But my guidance to you is be extraordinarily careful and get good advice from experts in the field, legal experts, HR experts, et cetera, because that can get you in a whole hell of a hot water very, very quickly. So I think for me, from a clinical perspective, I'm very much into the image recognition, the reading of radiographs, because here's what I think, and I don't know how this is going to shake out, but I know it's going to shake it up. And what I mean by this is the following: you pick up any journal, and what are people talking about? Reimbursement rates, insurance companies, etc. They'll come up with different reasons, but they will not be able to fight in the same ways that they've fought before. And also, I know that several of these companies are using AI to evaluate the radiographs you're sending them, whether it's electronic or not. And so there's going to be some type of rift and change within that side of our profession because they're not going to be able to avoid it. And whether that ends up having to do with lawsuits, et cetera, they're not going to be able to get away from that because they would claim subjectivity and this peer disagrees with that peer. That's all going to go away. And I think that from a case acceptance perspective, it's going to be huge for patient interactions. And again, from the front office elements, case acceptance starts when the phone rings. And so that patient experience, your responsiveness, the way you the swiftness with which you respond, how you respond, all those kind of things are incredibly important. So
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that about, in a sense, the AI agents. And it's almost like you've got the practice AI agent is fighting with the insurance company's AI agent.
yeah,
And then, I don't know, your bank has an AI
yeah,
agent and they're all just
yeah,
fighting with each other. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Eric, how about you? What do you want to say on this one about, how AI is helping or hindering the clinic?
Well, it's interesting. Have you guys heard of Molt Book? MOLT book. So this was just ironically acquired by apparently Facebook. They just crossed over 32,000 registered AI agent users, creating what may be the largest scale experiment in machine-to-machine social interaction yet devised. In other
Mm,
words, it's literally a Facebook for AI agents that
hmm.
says things like, my human is not very clear about what he wants. My human is wants this, 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 and this done. And it's
Yeah,
literally AI
yeah,
agents talking to each other. Now, who knows if it's all made up or what it is, but pretty remarkable. Speaking about, right, our bank
hmm.
AI is speaking to this AI, and suddenly no one's talking to each other.
Yeah,
From a poll perspective, I'll start there because I think it aligns very well to your perspective, Dr. Mendelson, which is privacy. And again, we've got 46% now participated. So please take a minute if you haven't done the poll yet. But 23% privacy, patient data security, top concern. The second biggest concern shared by you guys in the poll, team adoption training burden. 30%, very interesting. Inaccuracy, very good at 23%. And yeah, legal compliance, less, only one respondent. Very interesting here. Cost, very, very low on those sides. So that's some of the feedback. The flip side of where it's going, maybe I'll save that for the next question, but so again, please, if you haven't done the intro poll, please take a second for that. I mean, I think where I see it going is it's becoming more and more commonplace. We've certainly leveraged Microsoft and Copilot, and again, if it's free, as we know, right, from all our years of using all the free services, we are the product if it's free. In terms of helping and hindering, I think it's really there to help add some efficiency. It's there to again, add to the front desk, streamline. The best analogy I heard is if you had 100 people working for you at the front desk or working the phones or, supporting you in one way, what would you have them do? Right.
yeah.
That's such a good takeaway. If you had 100 people, 100 staff working for you tomorrow, Dr. Mendelson, at your clinic, right? And what would you have them do at the front desk? Well, I would make sure I had one person that would have all the details and all our children's names of every doctor that, or every patient
Hmm.
that called in. And I would say, hey, Marcy, how's Will and John? And Will's 5 and John's 3. And I would have all the information at a fingertip. I'd have another 3 people following up on the phone calls. I'd have another 8 prospecting. I'd have another 5 doing social media. That's how I think it can be an absolute help across the board. Uh,
Yeah,
the hindrance side is, try to do it half-assed, to lack of a better word, or to try to trust it to do big items. And we see more and more of that of our business and I'll touch on that afterwards, but we see this sort of, oh, well, I'll just ask, how to redo my policies through ChatGPT and that should be fine. Right.
yeah.
And for these big multi-million dollar types of decisions, it's, well, hey, I got nothing to lose. But then it's almost holding it to a gospel. I was talking to a prominent employment lawyer litigator the other day, Paul Martin, and he actually shared it in court to say, look, are we going to really leverage this stuff? Right? This is just pulled from some, new tool. Are we really going to embrace this or even bring it up in court? And he actually
Hmm.
was helpful to sort of strike that down as a conversation. So
Yeah.
that's That's my help and hindrance piece.
I think I did
Yeah.
want to bring up one other thing because there's been some chatter about, well, this is HIPAA compliant, that's HIPAA compliant. My understanding is not one of the large boys, girls that are consumer versions are HIPAA compliant, period, because your data is going out into the web. Second of all, there was some comments about, uh, hosting things locally. Uh, that is a huge thing. And even within the government, because I have friends that work for government contractors, those are still closed systems. They have the learning models, but they have, seasoned computer programmers and software architects programming the agents to interact with the data. We don't have a hope in a dental practice to be able to do this. And so again, there you go. It's not a good or a bad thing. There's a lot of misinformation out there. I'm not saying you can't host an LMM locally. I have one in my house. I know you can do that. My point is being able to program things for John or Jane Q dentist. The average dentist is not going to be able to do these kind of things. And so it's not that you can't do it, it's a resource and technology challenge. That's my point and my sole point. So,
Yeah, and Eric, I just want to chime in on something you said. One of our colleagues, Delane, who does insurance, work. One of her phrases in her nice Southern accent is she'll say, "Y'all got to remember that AI can't testify." And I think that as we get into this, and certainly
yeah,
in the HR space and everything, I
yeah,
mean, it's like, yeah, what happens if there is a dispute or a malpractice claim or an HR claim or discrimination or whatever it might be, and the AI was used? Who's liable for that? So,
yeah.
David, what do you want to say on this one about AI helping or hindering the clinic?
I'll give a couple of hindrances. And the first one, Alan, is I'll pick up on what you just said. I think in some cases people are using AI as a substitute for knowledge. And I mentioned a while ago I was updating a section of my policy manual, and what I did was I asked AI for suggestions, and then I took the suggestions and I considered them one by one, and then I made the changes. So AI was just giving me ideas, and I'm the decision maker. I think the danger that people are falling into now is that they're sometimes using AI as the decision maker. And as an example, I see these sometimes now. I see legal agreements that were obviously written by AI.
Yeah.
And AI, the price is right, but it's not a substitute for your lawyer. Your lawyer might use AI to do an initial draft, and if that saves the lawyer 3 hours of drafting and you get billed less money, then everybody's a winner. But the humans have to stay at the top of the food chain. And I think some people are kind of thinking they can abdicate to AI, and it's got limitations, and as several of the panelists have said already, AI is not particularly good at evaluating the veracity of the information that it gets. It's good at getting information, but it can't necessarily evaluate, how accurate it might be. So that's one danger. The second one is a lot more localized, and it comes back to something that I think Martin said a few minutes ago about about AI being used to submit insurance claims to insurance companies where AI review it. And we all know this. The way insurance companies make the most money is if they collect premiums and they don't pay claims.
Yep.
And now that they're using AI pretty regularly, one of the theories I have is that sometimes an insurance company will go back to its AI agent and say, we want you to reject more claims. Because they know statistically that if they reject 100 claims, that 8 or 10 of them will never get resubmitted, and that money goes right to the bottom line of the insurance company. So I think a danger you have right now is that the insurance companies kind of suddenly have this dial that they can easily turn up or down based on what they want to do. And I've heard, for example, of claims for scaling and root planing being declined by an insurance company because no tooth number was specified. Now, is that just AI not understanding that there's no There's no tooth number that incorporates all 32 teeth. Or is that somebody at the insurance company saying, you know what, if we reject claims like this, some of them will just fall off the table? I don't know the answer, but I think that's one of the dangers. Somebody I was talking to, just for what it's worth, said, yeah, but if you put tooth number 0 for that claim, it gets approved.
I just had a thought, and Eric and Alan, tell me if you think I'm crazy here, but
What, I don't get to weigh in on your sanity, Mark?
well, actually, you can. Well, you always weigh in on my. I mean, you're always welcome to weigh in on my sanity. But like, I was thinking of, somebody goes in and they say, please review this lease agreement for current laws, blah 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 blah, or please review this employee handbook for current laws, blah 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 blah. My mind then went to, okay, well, it's going to know theoretically what's law, but you two may know that up in Congress or within the government that something's about to come down the pike. And if we don't handle this now, then later it's going to be a real challenge to us. AI is not necessarily going to know that. And so, making sure that we're engaging still with the humanistic experts is hugely important. Is that a reasonable example that I just came up with, or am I crazy? And you're allowed to say I'm crazy.
No, I think you're spot on that one. I mean, I think for me in HR, it's easy because HR is humans, and
Yes.
so you can automate some of the busy work, but it's like
Yeah.
you're still dealing with humans. And I think there's a whole bunch of situations where AI is just going to struggle. I mean,
Yeah.
a real big thing that I worry about is when someone comes out with the equivalent of like an HR specialist and it's an AI HR
Yeah.
specialist. So you say, hey, I've got this employee and they're showing up late, AI help agent, can I fire this person? Well,
Yeah.
currently, the vast majority of the AIs out there are built to be agreeable and friendly and keep you coming back for more. Well, we get calls all the time when people say, hey, I need to fire this person. We say, you have no documentation. They're in all these protected classes. This is a really risky termination. Yes, you can, and it's risky. And we usually get a lot of pushback where they're, but you're telling me I got to do, I need to get them. It's like, it's always an option to fire the person. What I worry about with AI though is that with just the slightest bit of pushback, if the AI senses that the person is getting angry or getting frustrated with it, that it's just going to roll over and say, well, it's your business. You got to do what you got to do. Sounds good. Just fire the person. And so I
Mhm.
worry about that. I mean, I think AI can help with all kinds of areas of HR and a practice. We've already touched on a bunch of the clinical things, but
Yeah.
I mean, there's aspects around marketing, there's aspects around even just things like we had a client use ChatGPT to help them calculate some PTO formulas. And it's like,
Mhm.
I mean, I've used a spreadsheet for that for years, but it's like, okay, well, then you just type it into AI and you get it, and it's great, assuming AI can do math correctly, which sometimes it can't. But sparking creativity. I mean, all of that stuff I think
Yeah.
is great. Eric, what do you want to speak on Dr. Martin's sanity or not?
Yeah, I just again, it's we see a ton of that. I'm glad you asked it, Dr. Mendelson, because we spend over an hour for all the doctors that requested a quick call. It's we spend almost an hour doing these discovery questions about the doctor, what keeps them up at night, right? What status is their business, production per chair, transition plans, what that might transfer through to a child, or what those long-term transition looks like, DSO or otherwise, right? Unless you're really getting into a massive conversation and spending all that time, that's half the battle, number one. The second piece is, for sure, people are taking, even some of our clients that have retained us, et cetera, they upload their lease or some of the information, and then or some of the drafts, and say, well, oh, well, it told me last night that I need the purple door handle clause in my lease. Right. Well, the doctor, that's not a thing, right? Oh no, it said I must have the purple door handle clause.
Yeah.
Being a little
Yeah.
facetious, but obviously, it's one of these pieces where, doctor, look, respectfully, we've been at it for 33 years, and here's the most pieces. Here's what's reasonable. Here's what landlords are going to agree to. Here's what is the framework of reality as well as success. right? And let's talk about this logically, is the biggest one. So yeah, it's this sort of almost an over reliance or an over trust. Heck, I was
Mhm.
driving with XAI, connected, and I just asked, hey, what's the time zone change right now between, Eastern and Central? And it was wrong. I asked it 8 times and it kept on being wrong. So yes, not crazy, but right. If you use it the wrong way or take too much credence in it, it's the trust but verify is the name of the game.
Yeah, I think it's one thing to ask a straight up thing of information like what can I do or what is the law or something, but it's another thing to say what should I do, right?
Yeah.
And that's a much more nuanced answer and nuanced discussion. So let's fast forward way into the future. So let's say we were on this same panel 5 years from today. And so it's 2031, which is crazy to think
Mhm.
about. But what is one thing about kind of the traditional dental office that you guys think will have completely disappeared because of AI integration? So 5 years from now, something that is totally gone, different. And David, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, and to apply a different label to a concept we've talked about a few times tonight, to me, one of the places where AI is really excellent is in reducing what I think of as friction.
Yeah.
And by friction, I mean people having to communicate with each other to get something done and then follow up to see that it was done and communicate to the other parties involved that that task was done. I mean, as humans, we spend a lot of time doing that.
Yeah.
And if you want a classic case in a dental practice, it's doing confirmation calls for recall appointments. And that has moved from humans calling people to text-based systems. But, there's still human interaction required. So I have a hygiene appointment next week, and probably tomorrow I'll get a text saying, "Are you still coming?"
Yeah.
And I will pull out my phone and say yes, and that will go to the dental office, who will then mark me off as confirmed. That's what I'm talking about with friction. And AI, when it's applied properly, should have the ability to vastly reduce the amount of time we spend as humans communicating tasks to others and following up that they're done and conveying that they're done. And what my picture might be 5 years from now is that my practice's AI software will query my AI software and say, I just want to make sure that David's appointment is booked for next week for hygiene, that he's got nothing else on at that time, that he won't be out of town, and that you're going to remind him the day before to come. And that'll all happen between my personal AI assistant and the AI agent of the dental practice. And I'll just show up when I'm supposed to, and nobody had to chase me or do anything else.
Nice. All right, Eric, how about you? What do you think?
Very high level with it. Again, I think it's similar to the friction piece. The automated car to the dental clinic, and the dental clinic knows where you are and how close you're coming in, to you walk in and you don't even really engage with the front desk because your app is already connected and they know you're there and the chair's ready and you're getting those frequent updates. I agree with David 100%. That sort of, the GPS enabled devices all the way through to the chair and out, and then the patient experience sitting in the chair and having the data to make the right, treatment and whatnot, I think is a huge opportunity to make the patient more aware, more engaged. And I know I love it as a bit of a tech weenie, that's certainly a key piece, that the more efficient it is, the higher the connectivity. Heck, you see the Amazon package come 3 or 4 doors away,
Yeah.
right? The ability to have a stress-free internet experience is key.
Yeah. Um, Very similar answer. And I also want to clarify something too. I'm not anti-AI. In fact, quite the opposite. I have an LLM in my house. I use AI all day, every day. I think it's fantastic. My point is this. If you're new to this, you need to stick with companies that are reputable to help you get into the AI space. That's my point. So if you're looking to answer the phones, go with a company like Mango, that has these AI agents that have already been trained. If you're looking to read radiographs, go with Pearl or Overjet. That's my sole point. What we were all saying several times is please don't go to ChatGPT or Gemini and ask it to write you an employee manual because it's not going to know the HR laws. I think that's our point. So for me, I think, yeah, uh, with these scaled systems that are made for us, I think in particular, I just had an experience at the ENT this week. The gentleman I see is the senior guy there, very AI forward, and they're recording the patient interactions to then write the chart entries, to then send the referral letters. But these are all, closed and HIPAA compliant systems, not just going to Gemini or ChatGPT and doing it yourself. And I think that's one of the biggest change. Talk about hygiene and charting. Holy smokes. Like, why are we still doing that manually? So I think it's going to make us a lot more efficient from a charting perspective. And LLM is large language models. So thank you for asking that, Laura. So that's basically, the database of knowledge, if you will. And so when you're asking a question, it goes to the quote LLM to ask, to pull the data from. What people miss is that there are agents that need to be programmed that interact with the LLM, and that's where things get squirrely. And so I think it's really going to change the face. So, Eric and David were talking about reducing friction, like patient interaction. I think it will also reduce friction from a clinical and referral relationship interact base as well. So.
Nice. Yeah, and I'll just say I agree with what you guys have said, and I think from an HR standpoint, one will be a small one, like I mentioned earlier. That we won't have to chase down people if they forget to clock in or clock out. Maybe there'll be a whole other system for tracking whether people are working or not. I also think that we will continue to see more robust AI usage in the hiring process, just
Yes.
with AI screening resumes, or maybe you have your own personal AI agent that applies for jobs for you, and then you're evaluating that or something. I will say though, to that end, I don't know if anyone on the webinar tonight is that from a DSO or a large entity. We don't see this as much with smaller private practices, but there is a lawsuit pending right now against a large HRIS company called Workday. They have an AI system basically that screens applicants. And there's a lawsuit for age discrimination against them. And it recently cleared a hurdle. Workday basically asked that it be dismissed. Judge denied that. It's moving forward. And one of the theories is that these AI systems often are programmed based on human knowledge and human experiences and human writings and so on. So it's real easy for some of these bias pieces to get in there because it's based on what humans have done, and humans have all sorts of various different biases. So I think that is something that we will see, and we obviously have to be very cautious about it. Another thing, just to swing it all the way the other direction, I think in 5 years we will see practices that have almost like gone the complete opposite, and they are low tech offices where they do not have AI everything. They will be almost like the record player and the fax machine, or the 8-track player or something. That's the type of office it'll be, because we've already seen that with some of the Gen Z and even Gen Alpha folks, where they're kind of they recognize that being so technologically involved is actually harmful, and so there's almost, it'll almost be quaint, like going to a farm or something, like, oh, we're going to go to the dentist that doesn't use AI. So some fun stuff there. All right, let's dive into some specific questions for each of you in your specific areas. And I know we just have a few minutes left, so we'll do a kind of a lightning round here. So Eric, first one coming to you. So this idea of AI as it relates to office footprint. So if we're doing a ton of AI integrated hardware, 3D scanners, robotics, surgical assistants, if all of that were to become standard, How should dentists start rethinking their office square footage and lease renewals and everything to accommodate something like that?
I think it's a perfect one. It's about data and sort of having a dental specific team and the amount of, talk to designers or contractors and the amount that said, oh, I'm designing my new clinic and I've got it all here with some images from Pinterest or whatnot, right? And they're like, these are not architectural diagrams or beyond. Or, dealing with the landlord or the broker to say, oh, hey, I think it's, rent should be this or rent should be that. So it's sort of a lack of data. So I've actually got one little follow-up poll here that pops up. The data. So even just as simple as your rent, right? Just, again, as a good piece to share, how often or when was the last time you used any kind of AI or not, right? But when was the last time you compared your rent specifically to the market price? So, what we see there in terms of footprints, in terms of otherwise, is doctors dramatically overpaying in rent. We've seen some markets where the dentist has paying 64% above market price on average. Yet again, these are the best tenants on the planet, the highest build out costs, lowest default rates. They're in the same location for 26 and a half years. They're COVID proof. They can't work from home, right? All of these factors are key. But again, time and time again, every 5 years, we renew the lease, right? Suddenly we're paying 30 a square foot. The landlord wants 35. Oh, I'm busy with patients. Oh, how about 31? How about 34? And we end up at 33. Yet market is 22 type of thing. So these are the type of things that as doctors are now analyzing and looking at, it's that sort of quantity of data and it's the ability of understanding what's there. And then, of course, there's no public data for a lot of this stuff. So, this is, I think, the key takeaway I consistently remind doctors is in your situation, in your clinic, and what other dentists are paying close by is not public data. Even the best GPTs in the world don't have that access that we've amassed in 32 years. So these are the type of things that, again, start with a dental specific team, get the facts, get all the information, get the data, right? And then make the right decision based on that team that's done this many, many, many times before.
Awesome. Good stuff. All right, David, I'm coming to you. So I'm so excited to ask you this. So this idea that AI in being deployed potentially at some point as a tool for catching billing errors, catching embezzlement. I mean, do you see AI as kind of like a silver bullet for practice owners, or could it be creating a false sense of security that even sophisticated fraud embezzlers might even be able to bypass?
A little of both. And Alan, you know this about us. My company is incredibly careful about the information that we put in the public domain about embezzlement.
Yeah.
And the reason for that, of course, is that my job is to help dentists protect themselves, not to equip those who are seeking to take the dentist's money. So we're very careful. But I went into I went into an AI model the other day and said, what are the top 10 ways to embezzle from a dental practice? And I mean, if I were a thief, it would have been incredibly helpful.
Mm.
So, the tools are there to help thieves as well as to help dentists. So I view I view AI in that way as being a very double-edged sword. However, there are now starting to emerge technologies that use AI for financial processes that I think will help dentists a lot. And I'll give you an example. My company has participated in the development of something called SentryDoc. And SentryDoc is an AI-driven program that solves a very basic problem for dentists. It compares how much money their practice management software said they collected with what went into their bank account. Okay, and it's for a dentist to do that every month is a serious nuisance, and there are a lot of reasons for that. But this AI driven model, and you can have it for not a lot of money. I think the price is $150 a month, and for that, it probably has the potential either to save you 3 hours if you're doing that job manually, or alternatively to do it for you if you're not doing it and just praying to your favorite deity that nobody's stealing from you. So there's stuff coming out, and as I say, Century Doc is a great start that will help a doctor with a time consuming task, but one that's pretty important to protect them.
Nice. All right, Dr. Martin, coming to you. So let's talk about fear. Okay.
Mm.
Let's talk about, my dental team hears AI. They hear that they're going to be replaced, especially my billing team, my front office team. How can a leader who wants to be competitive introduce AI, talk about AI, and not frame it in a way where people are feeling like their job is going to get cut?
Well, I'm going to give an absolutely unabashed, shameless plug for my book because honestly, I'm going to give you a Cliff Notes answer, but there's 200 pages that go into all around these mindset elements. In fact, irony of irony, 2 weeks ago, I was the headline keynoter at a tech conference. And I was talking about the science of optimism, the science of mindset. Why? Because of AI. So this is not unique to dentistry, folks. This is unique. This is commonplace everywhere. So, at the end of the day, if I hear that a doc or a leader in the practice is coming to them and immediately we go to the fear space, then what I know almost instantaneously is we have a trust problem. Not only do we have a trust problem, we have a potential communication problem, not necessarily just from leader to team member, but also team member to leader, meaning not feeling psychologically safe enough to say, how is this going to impact my job? Is my job safe? What do you feel about my job, doctor? What do you feel about my long-term role here? So, what it says to me is that we potentially have a culture problem. And so building in the discussions that create psychological safety and sharing with the team the why. It's like, let's take an example that I think David referenced earlier, which is one of my favorite examples, which is almost no one calls to confirm appointments anymore. Why? Because we have a technology that does it. And frankly, I don't know about you, but if I get a phone call to confirm, I'm annoyed because I'm like, why can't you just text me? Right. So using the why, using examples, if you're an incumbent practice that did used to call patients to confirm, you could actually talk about that as an example that we now save X amount of hours per week that's enabled us to focus more on patient care, et cetera, et cetera. So really focusing on the why is really important, really addressing those fears head on and doing so in an open-ended question fashion. Because I talk communication all day long, every day. And so it's not, are you still afraid that AI is going to take your job? I wouldn't ask that. I would say, what fears do you still have? What concerns do you still have? Really to open up the aperture for people to talk to one another. So I think if you're seeing the fear factor come in, it's telling you a little bit, it's a diagnostic a little bit about your practice and your culture. And it also becomes an opportunity to not only answer those questions, but to change the culture itself. So that's what I would
Nice.
say.
Like it. I like it. Yeah, and I think one thing that makes me think of is just vision too. It's like,
Yeah.
what we're bringing in this AI stuff, but why? Is it
Yep.
is it about the patient experience? Is it just because we want to be trendy and hip? Is it because I'm actually planning on replacing you? Yeah, exactly. Back to something I think David said, from the HR perspective, I think AI is, oh yeah, David, it was what you said. So I did a similar thing. I said to ChatGPT, does my employer have to pay me when we go to a CE training? Well,
Mm.
if you were having that question as an employee in 1985, you had to do a lot of work to find out the answer to that. And in maybe 2005, Google, a little bit easier if it was available online, maybe not. But the availability of that information. Now, again, I want to emphasize ChatGPT is not 100% accurate all the time when it comes to compliance stuff, but it is accurate enough that it easily points people in the right direction. So, from a compliance standpoint, I think it just means that employers have to recognize that more so now than at any other time, they cannot put their head in the sand and just go, oh, well, my employees will never find out whether this is the law or not. It's like, no, everyone is going to find this stuff for sure. Um, and I really always love to emphasize how there are so many aspects of HR that are human to human connection. And for people that are familiar with the Heart Math Institute and this idea of our energy and how it moves out from our own bodies, and just this idea that, at least for folks in HR, I don't see AI ever fully replacing this. I mean, this idea that you have two employees fighting and there's going to be like an AI agent that somehow moderates the conflict and like helps solve that, or let's say it's an employee who's struggling with their own self-confidence, with their own abilities, and they want to get better, but they're not quite sure how. It's like, they shouldn't be fired. They need to be developed and improved. It's like, is AI going to do that? I don't know. It's just, anyways, I could go on for a while about that. All right. We have just a couple minutes left. Eric, do we have any questions from the audience? Any other things that we want to stir into this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's there was a great question about, how do this was, I think, I've invested in AI. It shows well. How do I do it without sort of bragging or otherwise? How do I show that commitment to patient care? How do I show that I've made these sort of investments? And I don't share that concern. I think it's important. I mean, part of what more and more people are expecting is more and more investment to show how your client experience is doing it. And if you're concerned with, pulling up and saying, hey, also AI has done it as well. I mean, again, it's something we've always done as part of our business, just sharing my screen. I mean, we made some heavy investments to show all the different negotiations that we've done based on area, based on situation, and link it all the way through so that we can give a very clear and robust experience for all of our doctors that are curious as to what is fair market rents, right? What has my landlord, right, agreed to or otherwise? What is fair and accurate? What are some other wins? What other deals? What other doctors have you worked with? And again, a lot of this are just public 5-star Google reviews. So it's a different perspective, one humble brag to another. But again, it's one interesting pieces of just making sure that many patients are going to want this. I can't see anybody that says, "Oh gosh, I wish you didn't make this investment, doctor, into this software," because it gives them a feeling of empowerment and also that, hey, this is different from what everyone else has told me when they sat in the dental chair.
Well, and I think as the doc in the room, I just want to say real quick, like it's all how you present it, right? Because if you came in and said, "Oh, I bought this because now it does it for me," versus this helps augment my diagnosis to help confirm, that's a different conversation. So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. And I'd like to hear, David, some final thoughts from you as well. And I'll just reiterate that I saw a poll recently that what people want is they want you to be using AI, but they don't want you to be only having AI do all of the work. They still want the human thing. And I think the chart or the X-ray evaluation is just such a great example of just let's make this better together,
Yeah.
as opposed to replacing it. David, what are some final thoughts for you?
Yeah, I think we're all harmonious on this one. I think what the patient needs to hear is that the doctor is still in charge.
Yep.
And I want to make sure that I'm diagnosing you correctly. So I have AI that double checks my diagnosis. I think if you put it like that, somebody's going to look at it, okay, this is better than just the doctor, or it's better than abdicating to AI, and AI is now my doctor. So I think everybody will find the phraseology that works for them, but I think the basic answer is, I want to make sure I don't miss anything important in your mouth. So I'm using AI to kind of double check my diagnosis.
For sure. Yep. Love it. All right. Well, we are at our time, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure. This is wonderful. And I think we should have a conversation about AI on a regular basis. And
I
I love
completely
the
agree.
comment someone had in the chat too, that in 5 years, maybe it's all of our AI avatars just having a conversation with each other, and
Never.
that'd be
Yep.
fun.
Our AI robots will be talking, and the audience's note takers will be listening.
That's right.
Exactly.
We've got a
Yeah.
quick exit as well. David, I know for any of the webinars we've done in the past, doctors that are concerned with the potential theft or key tools today to help prevent. I know I've switched my credit card statement to go to my house instead of the clinic. I've also checked the alarm in the office to see who's coming and going. But David, again, there's a quick pop-up again that you can get in touch with David and his team. What can they do if they request some time with you and your team in the future?
Yeah, I'd love to talk to dentists either if they have embezzlement concerns about how we can address them, or if they want to lower their risk, because you guys have heard me say before, there's about a 70% chance that a dentist will be a victim of employee theft at some point in their career. So from my perspective, you don't have to be in that 70% if you don't want to. And I'm happy to talk about how you can get out of that bracket and into the safer zone.
Perfect. Dr. Mendelson, I know there was a bunch on the entrance poll that had requested some follow-up.
Yeah.
What can they get by reaching out to you other than a great book and
And 4 hours of CE for reading it. No, in all seriousness, if you were to meet me in an airport and ask me what I do for a living, my answer is literally this. I help people get out of their own way on stages with their teams and one-on-one. And so what I love to do, what gets me out of bed in the morning is helping people understand the humanistic elements that drive a dental practice. And those humanistic elements are with the team, they're with the patients, they're with communication, and they're with clarity. And so I work in not for or with Ben Erickson, but in concert with Ben Erickson as a provider of the Drake P3 assessment, which stands for People Predictive Performance, which is a scientifically backed assessment that can help us understand each other better, ourselves, and how we interact with each other to drive practice success. Because at the end of the day, production in a dental practice is a lagging indicator. It's not just a lagging indicator of case acceptance, it's a lagging indicator of communication, not just with the patient, but with each other. So that's what I love to do. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning. And it's such an honor to be able to still help my colleagues in this way.
Fantastic. And ourselves, again, anything related, book a call. I know there were some couple pieces that said they had some urgent pieces that'd be month to month or otherwise. You're not alone in all of this. There's great support. There's great organizations here included that will spend a ton of time at no expense to have a good one-to-one conversation because God knows you have gone through hell and back over the past 5, 6 years. And definitely knowing that there's resources out there to help that do this all day, every day. So yes, complimentary lease review, we waive the $2,000 fee and support that across the board. Last but not least, on the people side, Alan, from your side, and yes, there was a quick piece for number 3. It was a little error. We'll send that up with a follow-up. But yes, Mr. Twig, what are some
Yeah,
key things by
to
getting in
kind
touch?
of reiterate what David said about 70%, I think that every single employer at some point in their career is going to have at least one very tough HR situation. And whether that's a really messy termination, it's a pregnancy that's, going off the rails, it's just, that really amazing employee, but they're struggling in some area. Everyone is going to have some kind of a tough HR situation. When that happens, you need a really solid foundation, really properly well-written policy manual, employee handbook, job descriptions, forms, all that stuff. And we say that we are a better way to HR. There are a lot of different HR companies and different HR tools and materials and things out there. And I think that what we have is a proven model that has worked very well for 45 years, keeping people out of trouble, reducing stress, and just allowing people to sleep better at night. So yeah, we're always happy to help, happy to see where people are at, what they need some help with, and what situations they're facing. So yeah.
Perfect. Excellent. I've included some of my contact details through there as well. Gentlemen, thank you so much. If there's any final questions, We had suggested at the beginning to throw on an after party, but that really reminds me of David, some of the COVID days we were doing. We kept on talking and talking and talking because the questions kept on coming.
Yeah.
So we'll give it another minute for any extra questions, but truly appreciate everyone's time. Definitely, you're not alone in all this. Any final pieces, Dr. Mendelson, to wrap us up?
No, we had a participant, Laura, asked specifically, please name the book again. My book's called One Move Makes All the Difference, but it's simple. You can just go to my website, which is my name, to look into where you can buy it because you can buy it wherever books are sold. But I just really appreciate the opportunity to get such a fun, diverse group of experts together. This is always so fun, and we all lean on each other, and we help, our clients. We refer to each other, and it's just what you're looking at here, folks, is almost like a study club, like in a local area where we support one another. Because Lord knows I am a study club fan. That's for darn sure. So it's always good to click into those experts because I don't know HR stuff, I don't know embezzlement, and I don't know lease stuff. So it's a great way to go. So
Definitely.
These are so
David, how
easy,
about you?
it's I feel like I've got three buddies here and we're watching a football game. That's kind of how I view these webinars. I really look forward to these guys. I mean, they're all, we've all been friends for a long time, and I get to work with three really great guys, and I'm so lucky.
Perfect. Thank you to all our members that came in from New York. And yeah, looking forward to connecting with you guys again. Our team will be in touch to make sure we're good for the CE credits and whatnot. And yeah, really looking forward to connecting with each of you and have a fantastic evening. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Truly greatly appreciated. AI has listened to this and is now incorporating all of this into their algorithms.
All right.
Thanks,
Good.
right.
guys.
Take care, everybody.
Have a good night.
Thanks,
Thanks, everyone.
everybody.
Well,
Cheers. Bye now.
Cheers.